At a headline level, pre-tax profits jumped from £882 million last time to £2.3 billion, although that largely reflected a big impairment charge this time last year on the company's property assets. The shares are ahead by 3% just now. We'll get analysis on that story later in the programme to you. Now, last month, we brought you an interview with the man behind the new Co-op Live venue in Manchester, the UK's biggest indoor entertainment arena. Well, today, we can reveal it's partnering with Seat Unique, the premium ticket and hospitality platform for live music, sport and cultural events. Seat Unique also announced today it's received investment from the Players Fund, the UK's first athlete-led venture capital firm, whose backers include Ben Stokes and Dame Jessica Ennis-Hill. Well, with me in the studio is Seat Unique's chairman, Richard Flint. Richard, great to see you this morning. For those who may not be familiar with Seat Unique, what do you do?
Yeah, well, we are focused on the experience economy, as you say. We're seeing huge growth. People want to go to events. People miss them in the pandemic. I think people think they've sort of got enough stuff and are after experiences. So that's our focus. But two additional points that are really important. Firstly, we're focused on premium tickets. So tend to be nicer seats, a whole hospitality experience that often involves food, padded seats, great views. That's our focus. And it tends to be, I think back in the day, it used to be corporate hospitality and your general ticketing. But there's this sort of mid-tier, which is people who want a nicer experience. And that's our focus. But it's also important to know that we are a primary ticket provider. So we source all of our tickets directly from the artist or the venue. We're not a reseller platform. Yeah. All our tickets are legitimately sourced and properly sold, and you're guaranteed access. So that's our business, and we're delighted to be growing and announcing new partners and announcing investment as well.
Yeah, so where are you seeing strongest demand right now?
It's across the board. Music has had a great run with as you know, Taylor Swift and Beyonce last year. A lot of interest in sport. FA Cup semis and final tickets are selling really well. We've got the title run-in, which is attracting a lot of interest.
Yeah.
And then in the summer ahead, we've got a lot of cricket, a lot of horse racing, a lot of Formula One. So it's a real sort of broad-based business. And if you go to the site, you can see the huge amount that we've got on offer.
Yeah, you've done several stadium naming deals with, I think, Durham, Gloucestershire, Yorkshire. I mean, cricket's obviously quite a big part of the mix.
Yeah, cricket, it's not a huge volume of events, but it's perfect for what we do. A day out of the cricket is a fantastic day. And I think it's one of the best sports from a sort of premium and hospitality point of view, because you're there all day. It often involves food and the odd bit of drink.
Yes, drink is often taken. Yes. What about the investment then from Players Fund? What are you going to be putting the money to use for?
Really, a lot of our spend. We're a startup, so there's a lot of spend in technology and some on marketing as well, and building the team. But a particularly good thing about the Players Fund is it's money coming from athletes, and obviously, given what we do, we're often, the athletes are the stars of the show. People are paying us money and paying the venues money to come and see these people. So for them to have a slice of the action, a slice of the business, particularly when they go on to retire, and we can also, benefit from their expertise and potentially benefit from them, meeting some of our clients. So the whole sort of circularity of it really makes sense, and we're particularly excited to be partnering with them.
Yeah, I mean, presumably this could involve ambassadorial roles then for some of them in the future.
Potentially, it's not part of the deal, but we could do that in the future. And we do have, we've got some great ambassadors as well. So, we would look to have ambassadors who are from the sporting community.
Yeah. Now, this Co-op Live partnership you've announced today, this gives you a unique facility with the venue, presumably.
Yes, we've got a unique 54-person Seat Unique area that we can sell directly, and other hospitality packages that we sell as well. And it's a real luxury experience with a lot of different areas of seating and bars. So it's really perfect for the sort of hospitality experience that we offer.
What's in it though for the venue operators and the stadium operators?
Well, we're another outlet for their hospitality packages. I mean, we've become very good at digital marketing. We've got a great tech stack. It's a great experience for our customers. And we're building a database of people who might be interested. So, they're based in Manchester. We've got a deal with Old Trafford from a cricket point of view. We sell football tickets from both Man City and Man United. So that whole ability to cross-promote to customers who might be interested is something we can offer and perhaps give them momentum that they wouldn't otherwise have.
Now, before I let you go, Richard, you're obviously speaking to us as chairman of this business. You've got one or two non-executive roles. Are you in the market for another executive position?
No, I'm not. Ignore what other bookmakers might say or the odds they might put out there. I'm very much enjoying the package of things that I've got at the moment, and great businesses like Seat Unique and Butternut Box, which is a fast-growing dog food business.
Yes, we've had them on the programme.
That's enough for me.
All right, Richard, got to leave it there. Great to see you. Thank you. Some other business news stories for you now. And the online beauty and nutrition products retailer THG said this morning that it had returned to sales growth as it reported a half-year loss. Well, the company, whose brands include Look Fantastic, Cult Beauty and My Protein, said that although 2023 revenues were down 8.7% on 2022, it had returned to sales growth during the final 3 months of the year. THG, which also owns the e-commerce platform Ingenuity, said pre-tax losses fell from £550 million in 2022 to £252 million in 2023. Shares are currently slightly down on the session so far. The UK's under fire National Air Traffic Control Service has hired the former Rolls-Royce chief executive Warren East as its new chairman. His appointment comes as NATS continues to face compensation demands from carriers such as Ryanair following a systems meltdown last August that left thousands of passengers stranded for days on end. Mr East, who earlier in his career was chief executive of chip designer Arm Holdings, is highly regarded for the way he steered Rolls, which derives much of its income from the time its engines are in the air through the pandemic. And the advertising group M&C Saatchi has blamed a downturn in the technology sector and hesitancy among clients to commit to new projects after reporting a 10% drop in full-year pre-tax profits to £28.7 million. But the company, which last year embarked on a major cost-cutting programme, said it was optimistic of returning to growth this year. It cited recent contract wins with clients including Porsche, Adidas, Nike, Revlon and McDonald's. The shares are off currently by 2.5%. Well, last night's modest gains on Wall Street were followed by a mixed session overnight for stocks in the Asia-Pacific region. As you can see, Shanghai fell by nearly 0.75% following a ratings downgrade for China by Fitch. But in Europe this morning, this is how the main indices are trading, all of them in positive territory just now. Talking points today include Volkswagen. Its shares up 1.25% in Frankfurt after first quarter deliveries came in ahead of expectations. Well, here in London, the FTSE 100 also in positive territory just now, up just over 0.5%, with the mining heavyweights again lending support. Outside the FTSE, the chip components maker IQE is up 30% just now. That's after a trading update highlighted an improving order book, while Capita is up by some 3%. That's after it won a contract extension from a major client, up nearly 4% just now. To the downside, Speedy Hire is off 3.5% on news that results will come in at the lower end of market expectations. On the foreign exchange markets, well, it's pretty quiet ahead of the US inflation data later today. You can see not much action among the major currency pairs. Sterling ahead by 1/5% against the US dollar. As for the oil price, well, that has traded in a tight range today following yesterday's sell-off. Barrel of Brent crude will currently set you back $89.66 a barrel. That's up a little over 1/4%. Well, with me now is Laura Fowles. She's equity income fund manager at Janus Henderson. Laura, great to see you this morning. Got to start with Tesco, the big corporate story of the day. What did you make of the numbers?
I would say very much as expected, steady as you go, which is what you really want from Tesco if you're holding it. Very consistent cash generation, and what we're seeing is they're returning the majority of that to shareholders via a dividend yield and also a £1 billion share buyback, so a really meaningful share buyback announced today.
Yeah.
I would say just sort of stepping back in food retail more generally, for the listed companies, so Tesco, Sainsbury's, M&S to a degree, although obviously they do clothing as well, it's a much healthier backdrop. We've got Morrisons and Asda now under private equity ownership. That's about 30-40% of the market. They've got big debt piles that they need to pay. So we're seeing a very rational food retailing sector at the moment.
Yeah, Tesco are ploughing it all back into cost savings, aren't they?
Yeah.
The share buyback, you mentioned that. I mean, it's a big number to be giving back. Now, obviously, they would be returning surplus capital anyway, I guess. But do you think it denotes the size of this buyback a bit of frustration at the share price?
I think that's what we're seeing across a huge range of UK companies at the moment. So whereas we used to associate share buybacks really with the US market, what we've seen in the UK and in Europe as well is a lot of companies, as you say very accurately, express their frustration with where their shares are trading by buying back their own shares. I think it's very logical for them to do that. In the case of Tesco specifically, there's around a 750 million ongoing buyback. They've also sold their bank, or they will sell their bank. It will complete in the second half of this year. So with some of the buyback is associated with that bank sale that's coming up.
Yeah. Now, another stock that's caught your eye today, WPP, an interesting deal they've announced.
So this is one of the biggest ad agencies in the UK. They've announced a deal with Google, and specifically Gemini, the large language model that Google have. And this is about, if you go to the old analogy of 50% of marketing spend is wasted, but you don't know which 50%, part of this is about trying to spend your marketing money better. So using AI in a very clever way to say, okay, well, where can we best allocate our cash? Whether it's TV, whether it's search engines, whatever it is. So it's about allocating money better, and also about using AI to speed up the ad process. So while I don't think we're going to see an advertiser use AI end-to-end to create an ad, I think they'll use it to tweak it, to make the colours better, to make the tone of voice better. So it's all just about fine-tuning the spend and also making ads easier to create end-to-end.
Yeah, it's a fascinating development, this, isn't it? Now, what about the US inflation numbers? What are you looking for there?
So this will definitely be the focus for the market today. And as usual, I think we'll see a slightly obsessive focus on the detail. The market's expecting about a 0.3% month-on-month change. To put it in numbers that we would more associate with, that's about a 3.7% annual rise. So not far off what the UK is doing, around the 4% level. Look, I think the key will be, are we expecting a June rate cut from the Fed, or is it more likely to be into the autumn? And if today's number turns out to be slightly higher than expected, I think the market will shift their thinking to a rate cut later in the year, maybe July or August.
Yeah, it feels like it's fading into the distance a bit, doesn't it?
A little bit.
Laura, great to see you as ever. Thanks for joining me today.
Where's the next guest?
Well, as we were discussing with Laura, later today we'll see publication of the March inflation data for the United States, with economists expecting a year-on-year figure of 3.4%, up from 3.2% in February. One factor adding to costs is the recent attacks on shipping in the Red Sea from Houthi militants. Andrew Gossage, Chief Executive of Ultimate Products, the homeware supplier behind household names like Salter and Beldray, has been telling me just how volatile shipping costs have been.
What we've seen, so shipping rate $18,000 in 2021, up from kind of $2,000 before then in 2020. Went down as, I think the lowest we paid was $900 for the same container. It had firmed up to $1,400, and then Red Sea happened, and we saw and what happened there, Ian, was because it was just before CNY, Chinese New Year, where demand is tight, capacity is tight anyway, it drove up prices to 5,500. But they've come down to 2,500 now. You can see we have to manage quite a lot. And that's about the normal long-term rate for a 40-foot container.
And if you want to see more of my interview with Andrew Gossage, you can do so right now on the business pages of the Sky News website. Now, the British parking app Just Park is to launch in the United States and Canada after merging with ParkHub, a leading US provider of parking management software and payment solutions. The deal, completed today, comes amid news that Just Park, which came close to falling into administration during the pandemic, has returned its investment from the UK government's Future Fund. The fund has more than doubled its money from the investment. Well, with me now is Anthony Eskenazi. He's the founder and CEO of Just Park. Anthony, good to see you this morning. What does this deal bring you?
What does it bring us? Well, firstly, a fantastic return for all our shareholders, so our institutional VCs, the employees, but also we did a world record crowdfund back in 2015. We've done further crowdfunds. I think we're returning over £25 million to retail investors, and also all the people who backed us during COVID when our revenue dropped 98%. The Future Fund, the backing from the government, also make, as you said, double their money. So it's a great result for investors and for the company. The opportunity to go into the US is a really exciting one.
Yeah, now you've got a new strategic investment from a couple of private equity firms as part of this transaction. What are you going to be deploying the capital on?
So the capital is mainly being used to obviously the merger, the acquisition of Just Park. But our plans in the UK to bring ParkHub's B2B capabilities. They're a huge event company, so they support the parking software for about 70% of US pro teams over there. So to bring that functionality over here to the UK, and fundamentally to bring the Just Park consumer experience over to the US and help with reservations and on-demand payments.
And the funny thing was, you had the idea for this business when you were in the US.
Yes, back in 2006 when I was in San Francisco driving around looking to find somewhere to park at the AT&T Stadium, and my friend said, I said actually, there's a driveway there, wouldn't it be great to park in it and pay $10 and solve that problem?
Yes. I mean, a lot of people grumble about parking apps because there are just so many of, Just Park and Ringo and so forth. Can you ever see a time where that becomes more simplified?
So that's already in progress. So the Department of Transportation announced the national parking platform, I think back in October, November last year. And the idea is then consumers will be able to pick the app they want to use. So if Just Park's your favourite, Ringo or anybody else, as local authorities roll this out, and I think there's 5 or 6 that have recently rolled it out, then as a consumer you get to pick based on price, based on experience, reviews, ratings, which will be better for everybody.
I mean, how rapidly can you see that happening here in the UK?
Not as fast as I think everyone wants. I think we've got 5 or 6 local authorities that have signed up. Peterborough actually went live yesterday. So I think we're hoping. I think there's a number of things still to sort out, but I think over the next couple of years, I think you'll see the majority of local authorities signing up to it.
So what are the sort of bumps in the road for you going forward? I mean, this is obviously quite a big moment for you in terms of the development of the company.
Bumps in the road. I think, clearly this is what I call the sort of end of the first chapter of my journey of Just Park. I've been doing this 18 years. I'm just very excited about the future. The opportunity to finally take Just Park into the US. I've always wanted to expand it globally, never really had the capital to do so. To bring those capabilities over here and really offer B2B service to expand our inventory over here. It's a sort of it's the next step of that journey, and to have the backing of FTV Capital, LLR Partners, is going to allow us to do that.
And will pricing in the US, do you think, vary much compared with how you price in the UK?
It shouldn't do. I think it's a slightly different product, different experience, different market, not necessarily more mature or less mature, just very different. And I think that's all stuff we're going to be working out. Clearly we completed the deal today. I think there's a sort of integration process we need to go through now. We're going to be a team of 160. I think we're going to be processing or seeing over $3 billion of parking transactions globally. So it's a different scale to what we've currently operated at. But from me personally, and I think for the Just Park UK team, just a very exciting next step, which we're looking forward to starting.
And will you relocate to the US, or are you staying put?
I think my young 4 kids and wife will have something to say about that. Probably not, but definitely a bit more travel.
Great to see you. Thanks very much. Still to come here on Business Live. Entrust acquires Onfido, the tech company founded by 3 Oxford University graduates. Don't go away. Great stuff, thank you.
I will always remember the atmosphere at the Shanghai protests. It was an electric mix of excitement, fear, and defiance, and a sense that history was being made.
We beg you to let Madeleine come home.
Memorable story was, and still is, the disappearance of Madeleine McCann.
I've seen people who believe and strive for the American dream, even in the face of disaster.
Play Sky News.
From the Sky News Centre at 7.
Now that you're up to date, we can go into a bit more detail.
Things can change incredibly quickly.
Taken by surprise.
Have you ever known a moment like this in British politics before? Yes. Cheers.
We'll start with breaking news.
Let's get the latest on the ground.
So, by the end, we'll hopefully all understand what's going on in the world just that little better.
Spencer, and I'm Sky News' arts and entertainment correspondent. As a team, we've interviewed some of the biggest stars in the world, the likes of Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt, Sir Elton John. We try to give you an honest sense of how these people really are.
You want to talk business? Meet me in the On-Board Lounge. Fly Emirates, fly better.
Welcome back. Now, earlier this year, we brought you news of how three Oxford University friends were set to share $100 million from the sale of their company Onfido, which uses artificial intelligence to verify customer identities. The business has been bought for a reported $650 million by the US company Entrust, a global provider of identity and security solutions, and the deal was completed today. Well, joining me now is Tony Ball. He's President of Payments and Identity at Entrust. Tony, welcome to you. For people who aren't familiar with Entrust, what is it that you do?
Ian, really appreciate the invite. So simply stated, if you look at 90% of the world's credit cards, debit cards, they're personalized on Entrust equipment. We lead the world in issuance. Think of a website that has a secure icon in it. Typically that's powered by Entrust technology. And I would say one of the things that's dear to my heart, I jumped on a train from London to Paris yesterday and went through Smart Check and did the ID verification that enabled me to seamlessly aboard the train. So that's Entrust. We power outcomes you probably take for granted.
And what does Onfido bring to the party?
So world-class ID verification. Based on AI and ML expertise, the ability to biometrically identify you, to authenticate your documents, particularly from an onboarding experience, and then being able to assert your identity for you to be able to transact. So that's one of the unique capabilities they bring that is really an exciting addition to the Entrust portfolio.
Is there much of a crossover between your two customer bases?
Without a doubt, both in the finance, government, and enterprise arena, when you think of the financial depth we have, really based from North America, but it is globally. And when you consider what's happening in the world today, there's $500 billion worth of fraud, there's $3 trillion worth of money laundering, and about 3,000% growth in deep fakes. And this is something that's really got the financial community on alert. And it's something that is top of mind for Entrust and has been for Onfido as well. So the combined assets and combined customer bases make for an exciting proposition, wholly accretive.
How quickly do you think you can bring Onfido into your business? Will there be much of an integration risk?
There's always an integration risk. One of the biggest challenges is always to win the hearts and minds. So the reason I'm in Paris, I was in London yesterday, I'll be in Lisbon tomorrow. Getting out to spend time with our Onfido colleagues, making sure that we win the hearts and minds, but make sure that this incredible talent is assimilated and that we fuse two cultures together. Most acquisitions fail off the back of culture assimilation. So that's not something that we're going to allow to happen. And we're really going to use the voice of our Onfido colleagues to make sure that it shapes the future culture of Entrust. We've given ourselves a 12-month period to make sure that integration aligns in a particular time frame, but gives people a chance to assimilate.
And the three founders that I mentioned in the introduction, are they all staying on with the business?
Well, two of them had already departed the business prior to this, but Rahul, who is an incredible human being, somebody that I've had the pleasure to get to know, is going to stay on. And that's very typical in the Entrust world. When we bring businesses in, the founders are typically part of the leadership team. I have two founders of recent acquisitions, one in the IDV space in Canada, one in the digital card space in France, and now Rahul are all going to be part of the leadership team. So, yeah, staying on, important part of the future.
Tony, a lot of people focus these days on the fact that a number of UK tech companies have been bought up by some of the big Silicon Valley giants. What would you say to allay people's concerns about this? Because this is really another example of that.
It is, and I would say the good thing about Onfido coming into Entrust is we represent an organization that's been around for 50 years. We take identity seriously. seriously. We've been in the financial arena, the government arena for a sustained period of time. Bringing companies like Onfido into Entrust, I think, gives an incredibly strong landing spot, gives companies like this a chance to really allow their creative and innovative approach to align with some of the things that we've invested in and continue to be the best versions of themselves and really add value to organizations that take identity and payment seriously. So I think it depends on the landing spot you get, but in Entrust, we think this is going to be a great place for Onfido to thrive.
Great stuff. Good to talk to you this morning, Tony. Got to leave it there. Thanks very much indeed.
Thank you for the invite. Appreciate it.
That's it from me. I'll be back with our afternoon edition of Business Live at 4:30. Hope very much to see you then. In the meantime, do stay tuned. Coming up next, it's Kamali Melbourne. See you later. Cheerio.